I'm Jerry Adams, and up until not too long ago, I was pretty happy with my life. Betsy has been my wife for close to 28 years. We're both 55, and our daughter Amy is all grown up. She's married to Jim, who's a decent guy. They've celebrated their third anniversary and are excited about welcoming their first child. Here's a brief backstory on Betsy and me. We got to know each other in college and went out, but we were so focused on our studies that we didn't become very intimate. Once we began dating more seriously, it turned out we really clicked. We tied the knot after 18 months, and Amy came into our lives 2 years later. She's been an amazing and intelligent daughter. Betsy and I both have stable jobs. She's been teaching for 25 years, and I work in the finance department of a large company that mainly deals with government projects. My role involves managing expenses and ensuring compliance with all government regulations. I've been with the company for 31 years and oversee a team of 4 employees. This story begins in the summer when my wife is on break from work. Once a month, she gathers with 3 or 4 close friends for dinner, sometimes at someone's house. These gatherings are usually for enjoyment, and occasionally they may go to a bar to listen to music and dance. I've never questioned what goes on because my wife rarely stays out late or drinks too much. This tradition started about 3 years ago when our daughter left home. Both my wife and I deeply love our daughter, and I thought her departure might spark a renewed romance between us. As we've gotten older, our bed life has naturally decreased. We still make time for weekly dinner dates, either alone or with other couples. I believed we were content and happy in our relationship, or so I thought. That evening, I returned home after grabbing a quick bite with my friend Harold, as we often do when our wives have their gatherings. When I arrived, I noticed the cars parked outside, so I parked on the corner and walked home. As I entered through the side door leading to the back porch, I heard loud laughter, assuming they were enjoying a few bottles of wine. I chuckled and overheard Stephanie, Betsy's close friend, talking about her husband Sam. She mentioned loving him, but noted he's older and overweight, struggling in the bedroom. Stephanie admitted to using a toy for herself instead of relying on Sam, who she jokingly called Minuteman due to his short stamina. They all laughed, but I felt bad for Sam, who's visited our house before and seemed nice. Although Sam's a bit overweight, Stephanie isn't exactly slim herself. It surprised me to hear her speak like this about her husband, and I sympathized with Sam. I stayed outside the room to listen to the conversation. Then Maggie spoke up, sharing that her husband, Harold, had a different issue. Despite being interested in closeness, his size left much to be desired, especially after having 3 kids. Everyone chuckled and inquired about the size. She replied, "He's about 4 inches." Then Stephanie chimed in, "No, how big is it when it's hard?" Maggie giggled, saying, "It's hard." Stephanie suggested, "We should nickname him Teeny Weeny." This sparked laughter, and Stephanie offered Maggie her toy anytime she needed it. Turning to Maggie, Stephanie asked, "When it's cold, can he even find that little thing?" I stood there, taken aback. Do all women share such intimate details about their husbands? Harold is a good guy, and I felt sorry for him. Amidst their laughter, I was grateful that my wife remained silent. At least I had a spouse with some dignity. Next was Erica's turn. I didn't know her husband Ollie well, but he seemed nice. She mentioned she was going through menopause and wasn't interested, while her husband remained eager for intimacy. I enjoy teasing him like a teenage boy, laughing as he gets aroused. He complains about getting blue balls. I even gave him the nickname Blue Balls Boy. All the women laughed, including my wife. Then my wife felt the need to chime in. "Well, ladies, let's face it, we're all married to older men, and they can be pretty pathetic. Sometimes my husband comes to bed and starts cuddling me, and he has a hard tool poking my back. Is there anything more repulsive than an old man being aroused, thinking it's pleasant?" "Of course," Stephanie had to add. "Betsy, what should we call Jerry? Any ideas for a nickname?" I remained silent, waiting to hear her response. She chuckled and said, "I think Boner Boy suits him." Everyone burst into laughter. I was shocked. After all these years, my wife had never expressed such sentiments to me. I never pressured her, and sometimes when she was tired, I simply kissed her and left her alone. Had she just said it, or was it true? I reflected on our past, remembering when our weekly intimacy became sporadic, especially during her menopausal phase. Not once did she complain about me. I stood there, feeling my heart racing. I was angry and hurt, unsure of what to do next. Then Stephanie, the leader of the group, suggested, "Hey, we girls can be naughty too. Let's start hitting up that new club and let some young guys dance with us. If our guys aren't satisfying us, at least we can let them flirt with us a bit." The others chuckled and agreed it was a good idea. I started to wonder what really went on during those nights at the bar. Usually, when Betsy came home, she wasn't drunk or in the mood, just taking a quick shower and joining me in bed. I'd ask her how it was, and she'd mention if she danced or not, jokingly saying, "I've got something better waiting at home." It all sounded like nonsense to me. I started to wonder if she was getting hit on, but I hadn't noticed anything. As I lingered outside the door, they toasted and agreed they should go out more often. I remained there, watching as they continued laughing and drinking. Erica gave a toast. "Here's to Minuteman, Teeny Weeny, Blue Balls Boy, and Boner Boy." They all raised their glasses in a toast. I felt disgusted. Is this what they do every time they get together? Finally, Erica spoke up, saying, "You know, we've all been married for a while, and we should appreciate that they're all good fathers and providers. Even if they have flaws, they belong to us." I hoped that sanity had returned, but apparently not. Stephanie chimed in, "Sure, they've been good fathers, but sometimes we need more. It might be fun to try someone younger just once." After Stephanie's comment, there was silence. It was getting late, and Erica suggested, "Let's go back to the old guys again." I hurried out the back door and got to my car before anyone else left. I was so angry that I knew I needed to calm down before going home. I drove around the area and stopped at a park. I decided to take a walk to relieve my anger. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had heard. I used to think all the women were nice and kind, so what I heard shocked me. Was I really in that bad of shape? I still rode my bike sometimes, and sure, I had a few extra pounds, but I was in better shape than any of those women. I wasn't a hunk, but I wasn't a chunk either. They were all a bit overweight, and even though they were attractive, I couldn't imagine lots of young guys chasing after them. I pondered over it and wondered, should I tell their husbands what I heard? Or should I sneak out and catch them the next time they go to a bar? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I still loved Betsy. But hearing all that disrespect tonight seriously upset and hurt me. Did she not realize how hurtful it was? How would she feel if I said disrespectful things about her to the husbands? As it got dark, I headed home. When I pulled into the driveway, everyone was gone. I walked in through the back door, and Betsy was finishing cleaning up. She turned to me and asked, "Hi, sweetheart. How was your day?" I looked at her as if she was a stranger. I wanted to confront her, but I just stood there, silent. "Honey, what's wrong? You look upset." "I just had a tough day and I'm exhausted." "I thought you were having dinner with Harold." "What happened?" "Harold's fine. I just had a rough day. I have a headache, so I think I'll take a shower, read a bit, and then go to bed." Betsy hurried over and hugged me, but I felt drained and worn out. She kissed me on the cheek, and I pulled away and left. "Do you need anything? Can I help?" "No, I'm good. Just really worn out." I took a shower and hopped into bed. Later, she peeked into our bedroom and saw me reading. "Honey, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. I love you." I just nodded and then drifted off to sleep. I took some sleeping pills and eventually dozed off. I remember Betsy snuggling up next to me, but I pretended to be asleep, and she eventually rolled over and went to sleep. Saturday morning, I woke up early and decided to go for an early bike ride. Betsy was still asleep, so I headed out. I wanted to ride for about an hour this time. Usually, I only did 30 minutes, but I felt like I needed to build up my stamina. When I got back, Betsy was having breakfast. I was drenched in sweat, so I went to take another shower. "Jerry, I'll make you breakfast. What do you want? I'm going shopping with Amy to look for some maternity clothes." "Don't worry about me. I'll just have a bagel and some coffee. Have fun." When I came downstairs for breakfast, she had already left. I was glad she was gone. Now I could focus more on figuring out what to do. I was still mad when I realized I needed to learn more about those bar visits. One of my assistants, a young guy named Dan who had been working for me for about 5 years, might be able to keep an eye on her without raising suspicion. We still had a landline, and I kept considering disconnecting it and just using our cell phones. I thought about keeping an eye on the home phone too. Maybe I could find something to track the calls. I spent the whole day going through her emails, as she never hid them. I checked about 2 years' worth of activity, but nothing seemed suspicious. I kept wondering why she didn't delete old emails. Now I was glad she hadn't. Around 5 o'clock, I heard her car pull into the driveway. She came in excitedly and said they had a great day finding things for Amy to wear. I was happy because I love our daughter so much, and she and her husband could use our help. Betsy was talking rapidly, and I just sat there nodding. Finally, she mentioned having leftovers for dinner from the wives last night. That brought me back to reality, and I got upset again. I tried not to show it, but she noticed I was quiet at dinner. "Honey, can you tell me what's bothering you?" "I'm fine, it's work, and hopefully it will be resolved soon." She kissed me as I gathered the dishes and began to clean the table. I learned a long time ago that Betsy is a much better cook. but at least I can clean up. She had some wine and sat at the table while I did the dishes. Betsy, are you happy? What do you mean, am I happy? Of course, are you? Yes, but sometimes you seem distant. Do you enjoy your time with your friends? That was my chance to ask. Yes, I enjoy hanging out with my girlfriends. We have a lot of fun since we're all about the same age and have similar interests. When you go out to listen to music, do you dance with other guys? She suddenly looked puzzled. I've been asked to dance on occasion, and yes, I have. It's innocent, and I never let them get too close. Are you feeling jealous? Are the guys younger, and do you ever feel a bit excited? Why, Jerry, I think you're jealous. You have nothing to worry about, dear. I'm curious because when a group of 4 or 5 attractive women are together, they can attract a lot of men. Do you dance slow with them when they ask? Jerry, what's happening? You know I would never let someone else get that close. Do the other women also dance? If one of them ever did something you thought was inappropriate, would you tell me? Betsy gave me a strange look and replied, Jerry, I don't think any of the ladies would do anything wrong. You know them all, they'd never do that. I pondered for a moment and suggested, I have an idea. Why don't we have a cookout and invite them and their husbands? She just shrugged and said, I bet all of them are busy with their summers. Okay, I was just asking. When will you ladies get together again? She frowned and said, Jerry, I wanted to talk to you about that. Stephanie has a place at the lake and she thought we could all go next weekend. Stephanie meant just the wives. You guys are always too busy. I turned and looked at her. When were you going to tell me? I meant to mention it last night, but you weren't feeling well. When are you leaving? We were planning to leave Friday morning and come back on Monday evening because of July 4th. We usually have a neighborhood block party on the 4th. Will you miss the party? No, I'll be back in time for the fireworks. You'll miss all the other activities. We usually have Amy and Jim over too. Betsy noticed my disappointment and said, Jerry, I'll make it up to you when I get back. Sometimes us girls just need a break. I get it. Then I headed to my office, thinking to myself, she hardly ever goes away. And now she's leaving right after I heard all those comments from the girls about needing something extra. This isn't good, and I started wondering what's really going on. Later, Betsy came into the office. Jerry, you're not upset with me, are you? No, I just wish you'd tell me these things. By the way, who's going? Stephanie, Maggie, Erica, and Teresa. Teresa works with Stephanie and is a good friend of hers. I didn't know Teresa but wanted to learn more about her. Is Teresa the same age and is she married? I think she's close to our age, but she's divorced. That's great. My wife wants to run off for a few days to party with some women and I have no clue what's happening. It seems odd that you suddenly want to spend more time with your friends. I was hoping we could spend some time together since I'm off on Monday too. That's sweet, hon, but this is the only time we can all get together as a group. I promise we can do more things together before the summer is over. The week went by, and I could tell my wife was excited about her upcoming trip. I was still upset. I decided to try one more time and see how she'd react. Honey, what about joining you Friday night and leaving Monday morning? You'll still have some time away from the husbands, but we can spend time together too. Jerry, for goodness sake, what's gotten into you? We just want some girls-only time. Okay, you win. Have your time. But you hate it when I want to go away with the guys for a golf weekend and I never go. That's because it's too expensive and I don't like being alone. Please, honey, try to understand. You're acting like a child. Well, that was my last attempt. Maybe she was right. The girls needed some time alone. I'd never been bothered before, but it made me more concerned because of the conversation I overheard. I decided to try and find out more. When she was in the shower, I took her cell phone and tried to unlock it. She had it protected, which was unusual because she never locked it before. I had to come up with a plan. Since our phones were almost identical, I took hers to work and left mine behind. Dan, our IT expert, was there, so I asked him if he could help me access her phone. He worked on it for a while, and I gave him all the possible passwords. Finally, he found the right one, and it opened up. I started going through her texts, hoping to find something useful. Most of her texts were from her friends, but I found a lot of information. Dan was helping me link her texts to my home email. I thanked him, and he was glad to assist. It seemed like Stephanie was the one leading the group. They were planning to go to her cabin, and some guests were supposed to visit, with Teresa being the events planner. The more I read, the angrier I got. My wife seemed very excited about it. Only Maggie thought it was a bad idea, saying, "If the husbands find out, they'll be furious." Stephanie brushed her off, insisting it would be fun, and if nobody found out, no harm would be done. My wife agreed. Erica said she was so excited she couldn't wait. I monitored as many emails as I could. When I got home, my wife asked if I accidentally picked up her phone. I told her yes. She turned red and said, "Why did you take my damn phone? That's private, and you have no business looking at it. Damn you, Jerry." I stared at her, feeling like she'd lost her mind. "I realized it was your phone, and since you recently locked it, I couldn't read your messages. It seems like you're hiding something. What's going on, Betsy?" "Nothing. I just don't like it when you invade my privacy." "Betsy, do you have something to hide?" "Of course not. I had a restless night on Tuesday. I made up my mind to call my daughter and see if she knew anything. My wife and Amy talked almost every day. I dialed her number and asked if her mom mentioned her upcoming trip. Amy confirmed and sounded excited. I probed for more details. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's good. She just seems a bit different." "Maybe it's because of the baby coming. She's really excited about it." "You're right, sweetheart. We can't wait for that." When Betsy came home, she could sense my unease. "Honey, you know I love you, right? This trip is just a simple getaway, and I'll be thrilled to see you when I get back on Monday." I forced a smile and replied, "I hope so." Thursday morning, I was up early and headed to work. I decided to check her texts. Stephanie kept hyping up the trip to the girls, but she wouldn't spill the beans on what they were planning. Teresa seemed to be the one organizing everything. I approached Dan again and showed him some emails. I wanted to know if there was any way I could access other emails. Dan studied the email and asked, "Who's this Teresa?" "I'm not sure. Someone who works with Stephanie." His face lit up with a big smile. "She's my sister. She recently organized a bachelorette party for a friend who's tying the knot. She mentioned to me that a coworker wanted to arrange a dancer for her pals. Teresa offered to help, but she wasn't clear on the occasion. Her friend just said it was a girls' weekend." Seeing my pale face, Dan reassured me, "Jerry, don't worry. I'll find out for you." Now everything clicked, and it all made sense. My wife was planning to have a dancer, and I needed to know how far things would go. Going to a strip club is one thing, but a private party is another. I kept digging through Betsy's texts and emails. She mentioned that I was getting angry. Stephanie texted, "Tell Boner Boy that after this weekend he better behave, or you won't need him if he doesn't shape up." That made me furious. I was about ready to lose it. I urgently worked on a plan. After lunch, Amy called and mentioned she talked to her mom. She said Betsy just needed a break. Amy asked her why this weekend was so crucial that she'd skip the family 4th of July celebration. Betsy reassured her, saying she needed time with her friends and not to worry. Amy expressed concern about my mood, suggesting Betsy should be around more. But her mom insisted she needed this break and promised to make it up to me when she returned. On Thursday, I decided to reach out to all the husbands. First, I phoned Harold and asked if he noticed anything unusual with Maggie lately. He mentioned she seemed quiet and a bit worried. He figured she might just not be feeling well, but was looking forward to the weekend. Later, Dan got back to me after speaking with his sister, Teresa. She had been in touch with a dancer who had performed at a party. This was the same dancer hired by Stephanie. I called the husbands and arranged for them to meet at my house on Friday night without informing their wives. Sam and Ollie, not knowing me as well, preferred to relax at home alone. I emphasized the importance of understanding their wives' plans for the sake of their marriages. Eventually, they all agreed. I also suggested they sneak a peek at their wives' emails or texts to gather more information. However, most said they couldn't access their wives' cell phones. On Friday morning, I woke up at 5:30. Betsy was still asleep, so I checked her suitcases to see what she packed. I went through them, but everything seemed normal. I continued monitoring her emails and texts. Stephanie expressed excitement about what Teresa had arranged, but kept it secret from the others. Betsy was set to leave at 8. Although the trip was only about 2 hours away, they wanted to get an early start and soak up the sun as soon as possible. I took the day off without her knowledge. While having breakfast, I heard the shower running. I usually leave around 8:30. But I decided to leave early and leave a note saying I had an early meeting. "Dear Betsy, I hope you have a fantastic time with your friends. I've noticed you're unhappy lately, and I can't help but think I might be the reason since you've been distant. I'm sorry if I haven't been able to make you happy anymore. I wish we could stay together and reconnect. Lately, I've been feeling really down, and I've wanted to be close to you because you've always made me feel special. I've loved you for over 28 years, and all I want is for you to be happy in the future. With love." Jerry. Betsy began to worry when Stephanie texted saying she'd pick her up at 8. Betsy responded, Stephanie, something's wrong with Jerry. I'm concerned. I don't think I should leave until I talk to him. Stephanie replied, Betsy, for heaven's sake, Jerry's a grown man. He's probably just sulking about being alone for the weekend. I bet he's just moping around. Betsy texted back, This isn't funny, Stephanie. I'm worried he might think something's going on. I haven't been treating him well lately. I need to reach out to him. All right, I'll give Harold a call and see if he knows anything. He took off early this morning, too. The women were texting each other and realized they couldn't reach any of the husbands. Stephanie texted everyone and ordered them to get ready, saying, We're all heading out for the weekend. No excuses. The guys will be fine. I'd been working on a plan for a few days. Now it was up to the men to act. Maybe the wives were right about them being old, overweight, horny, and lazy. It wasn't too late to salvage marriages or at least prevent the wives from ending them. Harold and I had a lengthy discussion when Ollie and Sam showed up. They all looked concerned, and I assured them they had reason to be. The reason I brought you all here is because I have reason to believe our wives are planning to break our wedding vows this weekend. Can any of you accept that? I shared the whole story about overhearing their conversations and hacking into my wife's cell phone to find out what they were planning, or at least considering. Sam, Ollie, and Harold were furious at what they heard. Then, a sudden silence fell over the group. I pitched my plan. We'd rise early on Saturday, head to the cabin, and wait for the visitors to show up to see what goes down. We hashed it out and agreed not to respond to any emails, calls, or texts, leaving the women in the dark. It wouldn't be easy, but we needed to make them suspect something was off. We talked late into the night and planned to reconvene at 9 in the morning. I had a restless night, constantly checking my phone. My wife had texted me about 20 times, initially worried, then getting angry, calling me a spoiled brat for trying to ruin her girl's weekend. I eventually managed to drift off to sleep. Come morning, I called my daughter, who told me Mom had called, very concerned. Amy mentioned they were inviting me over because Mom wanted to jet off with the girls. Betsy hung up on her. I checked our bank account, as I often do. I handle most of the bills. I noticed Betsy had withdrawn $500 for her trip. That confirmed what she had planned. I filled the guys in on the situation and told them to check their accounts. They found similar large withdrawals, suggesting the ladies were up to something. Sam, Ollie, and Harold felt ashamed and furious about how their wives disrespected them. I cautioned them against getting violent, but advised them to hold on to their frustration until we confronted them. The showdown was set for 8 o'clock, so we needed to be there by 7 o'clock and keep it under wraps from the girls. Teresa kept me updated after my chat with Dan. Since Stephanie worked with her, she likely thought everything was smooth sailing. Stephanie had approached Teresa seeking a good dancer for a ladies' party, and Teresa knew just the person. I shared this intel with the husbands, who grew even more enraged. Teresa even snapped some photos of the dancer she knew and passed them to Stephanie. She told me Stephanie was practically beside herself with excitement. The dancer, in his late 20s, was tall, handsome, and well-built, boasting a sizable package, exactly what Stephanie desired. She even inquired if he'd be up for extra services. Teresa asked, like what? Stephanie mentioned that they were all married to a bunch of old farts and wanted to see what a young hot man could do for 4 women. As Teresa relayed this to me, I was furious. Teresa informed me that the others did not know, but Stephanie had hinted at something prohibited, and everyone seemed excited about it. The men were angry as we continued our discussion. Thankfully, we managed to put a stop to this, but our relationships with our wives seemed uncertain. I texted Teresa when we were close to ask if everything was arranged. She called me back a few minutes later from outside. Teresa, we really appreciate your help. You've opened our eyes, and maybe this will save a marriage or two. I don't know. Jerry, I had an ex-husband who cheated on me, so when Dan mentioned your situation and he knew I worked with Stephanie, I was happy to help. Has Stephanie told the others that a dancer was coming? I really want to know the truth, especially how my wife reacted. I could sense Teresa hesitated, but eventually she spoke up. Jerry, I think your wife is influenced by Stephanie and lets her persuade her into doing things she wouldn't normally do. Teresa, please just be honest with me. Did anyone admit to doing anything when they went to the bar? It's hard to say, but they mentioned that some of the guys would kiss them and touch them, but no one had closeness. Regarding your wife, she said that one guy grabbed her hand and placed it on his tool, which she described as very big. Then she pulled her hand away and didn't do anything else. I understand. Did they know what was going to happen later? Stephanie then mentioned that if we liked Big Johnsons, wait until we all see and feel one in action. He's going to entertain us all, and maybe we could join in. I have to go. They think I'm talking to the dancer. Jerry, what she said and done isn't that bad. I hope you realize Stephanie is the one at fault here. Thanks, Teresa. We'd be clueless without you. See ya. As I relayed Teresa's message, they got angry. We were almost at the cabin. We pulled over, and I took charge, planning to tell the wives our decision. I texted Teresa that we'd arrive in 10 minutes. She replied, "Okay, they're just finishing dinner." It was 7:30 p.m. The cabin sits on a small hill with a stunning view of the lake. Sam mentioned it's been in his family for 3 generations. It's rustic but cozy, with a breathtaking view. The nearest neighbor is half a mile away. We parked a few hundred yards back on the dirt road and walked up to the cabin. We could hear the women chatting. They must have been on the back porch, enjoying the lake view. Sam opened the front door, and we all entered quietly. The women hadn't noticed us yet, engrossed in their conversation and sipping wine. Sam opened the back door, and the conversation halted. The wives looked stunned. Sam greeted them with a smile. They stood there speechless. Finally, Stephanie broke the silence. "Sam, what in heck you doing here? This is supposed to be a girls' weekend. We were about to go somewhere." Sam responded, "Before you go, come inside, everyone. I want you to meet some of my friends. Ladies, I want to introduce you to Blue Balls Boy, Teeny Weeny, Boner Boy, and, of course, I am Minuteman. Is that about right, witch?" he asked, turning to his wife. Stephanie was stunned, which was surprising. I spoke up next. "Please take a seat and relax. We've got some things to discuss." Betsy tried to say something, but I interrupted her. "No." She sat down and began to cry. Maggie looked like she had seen a ghost, and Erica seemed to be in shock. I continued. "First, we've got some matters to address, and then you can have your say." I turned to Teresa and remarked, "Wow, you must be Teresa. You're stunning. My wife tells me you're her age. How old are you?" Teresa seemed taken aback and replied, "I'm 34. Seems like my wife is either mistaken or fibbing. Right, honey?" I winked. The women appeared quite nervous, especially since it was almost 8 o'clock, and they still believed a dancer was on the way. Some were checking their watches. Finally, Erica spoke up. "We're famished. Let's all go out and grab a bite." I chuckled. "Nice try, Erica. I think the dancer is supposed to arrive any minute now. You know, the one with the big tool you're all waiting for." My wife started crying, and Maggie was already in tears. Harold couldn't hold it in any longer. "Maggie, you cow, how could you embarrass me in front of our friends and talk about my private stuff? I tried to make you happy, but it seems like it wasn't enough." Next up was Ollie. "Erica, I've cared about you for years, but now I feel betrayed. Thanks for telling everyone about our personal life. I want more than just physical intimacy. I want you. But not anymore. Go to heck, cheating witch." Then Sam chimed in. "Stephanie, you're awful. A lot of what happened is because of your own insecurities. You've caused a lot of trouble. I used to care about you, but not anymore. After we split up, you can do whatever you want. Oh, and by the way, those pants do make your look big. Frankly, if you get any bigger, they should attach ropes to you, and you can be in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade." Eventually, I told her, "Betsy, you've gone too far this time. You lied and intentionally hurt me just for fun. Don't think you'll miss me in intimate moments in the future because you won't have the chance to see or touch me again. It's sad that I loved you for 28 years and still found you appealing. Maybe you can return to the bar for the excitement you seem to enjoy. Just so you know, there was no dancer involved. We put an end to that rumor as soon as it came up. Don't ask how we knew, but we did. I hope the $500 you took from our account helps you find a new place or chase after another fantasy. I'm out. Have a nice life." The women came outside trying to make things right, but we weren't listening. Before we left, we deflated 2 of Stephanie's tires as a final payback. She wouldn't be able to get them fixed until after the holiday weekend. Teresa had taken off while we were confronting our wives. Back at home, we moved into our separate lives. My wife kept calling, texting, and emailing nonsense. She texted to apologize, saying it was all meant as a joke. In the one voicemail I listened to, she said, "Jerry, I'm really sorry. The whole thing was just a joke gone wrong. We didn't mean to hurt you. I would never be unfaithful. It was supposed to be harmless fun, and I should have clued you in sooner. I love you deeply, and can't imagine life without you." I ignored all the messages. Instead, I visited my daughter Amy, and we had a great barbecue. I explained to her, "Your mom hired a dancer for a party, and I can't trust her now." Amy was shocked and upset, saying, "I can't believe Mom would do that." When her mom called her, she inquired, "Did you have fun with the dancer?" Her mom claimed it was just a prank, and that Amy shouldn't have been informed. Despite everything, our wives made it back home on July 4th. By that time, I had already left to spend time with Amy and Jim. Later, Betsy caught up with us. Betsy apologized to Jerry, Amy, and Jim, saying, "I'm terribly sorry for the chaos I've caused. I love you all deeply and will do whatever it takes to make things right." Amy responded, "Mom, I'm truly let down and shocked you'd find this okay. The last time I was around a dancer was back in college." Jim jokingly said, "You'll have to fill me in on that story. I had no idea my wife had such an experience." Amy clarified, "Jim, that happened before I met you, when we were just young girls, not like my mom's age." Betsy broke down in tears and decided to go home. After enjoying the fireworks with Amy and Jim, I returned home to find Betsy had already gone to bed, exhausted. That suited me just fine because I had moved my belongings into Amy's old room and settled in there. The following morning, I left for work early before Betsy emerged from her room. Dan asked me how everything went at the office. "It was tough, but I'm glad we could stop things from getting worse," I replied. "Do you think you can fix things with your marriage?" "I hope so, but I'm not certain. I still have feelings for that witch." Betsy texted me, asking when I'd be home and mentioning dinner. "We really need to have a serious talk," I replied. I let her know I'd be home at the usual time. When I arrived, the house smelled delicious, and I was starving. Betsy greeted me and apologized, suggesting we talk after dinner. "Sure," I agreed. Dinner was quiet but tasty, as always. I really enjoy her cooking. Afterward, she invited me into the den with dessert and wine, and I felt like she was trying hard to make things right. "Betsy, about the weekend, I need to understand. Why didn't you stop things with the dancer once you found out?" "I thought about it, but Stephanie had organized everything, and since it was her cabin, we all felt she was in charge," she explained. "Can we also talk about the times you've been to the bar? How often have you been touched by other guys, and have you touched them back?" "I haven't touched or been touched by anyone. That's just not true." "But one of your friends said a guy made you touch his private part, and you said it was big." "No way. He might have bumped into me, but I didn't feel or touch anything." "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'm not happy. You didn't seem to care when I was hurting, and it's really disrespectful. The way you all talk sounds like you're treating your husbands like clients, not partners you should love." "Where did that come from? Do you always talk about us like that?" "Honey, it's just girl talk, you know? We say things, but it's mostly exaggerated. I know it sounded bad, but we were just being silly after drinking. Imagine if we husbands talked about personal things and made fun of you all. Called any one of you overweight? You'd be furious, right? It was rude and disrespectful." "I'm really sorry, Jerry. It was a mistake, and we shouldn't have done it or planned that weekend. I don't understand why Stephanie wanted to do that." "I know why. She doesn't respect her husband, and she convinced all of you to do the same." "Jerry, I swear there's no one I've loved more than you. I'll make it right. I promise. You mean everything to me." "Okay, we'll see. But you gotta show me. I've moved my stuff to Amy's old room for now. It's all right there. I want you to go to therapy. And don't worry about my, excitement. I didn't realize things were so bad in our marriage and that you were so unhappy. It hurts that you don't respect me. Am I really that awful?" "Honey, I love you. You're not awful. I messed up and took you for granted. I was wrong, and I don't think I need therapy. Here's the thing. You let Stephanie influence you too much, and I'm worried about her impact on all of you. That's why I think therapy would be good." She was surprised, but agreed to do what I asked. I could tell she wasn't fully on board, but I believed she needed it. I offered to go with her if that made it easier, but she had to find someone to help her. 9 months on, all of us husbands agreed with the women on one point. We needed to shape up. So we started going to the gym and motivated each other nonstop. My fitness and energy levels improved, and my daughter even started calling me a hunk. As if that matters at my age, I mused to myself. Here's the current status. 2 of the marriages are seeing a counselor, and 1 was on the brink of ending. Stephanie and Sam are nearly divorced. Stephanie moved out to live with her sister in a different state. Most of us were actually relieved. Sam felt a little sad, but has begun to explore dating again. Honestly, no one missed Stephanie. Erica and Ollie are undergoing counseling to rebuild their relationship after the intervention. Erica is focused on supporting her husband, while Ollie has become more assertive to ensure he's not seen as submissive. It looks like they might succeed. As for Maggie and Harold, Maggie was the only one skeptical about their plans. She openly expresses her love and admiration for her husband, boasting about his prowess in the bedroom. I think Harold has moved past the embarrassment. That brings me to my situation. Betsy and I still share the same house, and she's still attending counseling. Technically, we're still married, but my granddaughter, Brittany, has become the new joy in my life. Sometimes Betsy seems genuinely remorseful, but it's hard to say for sure. Amy, our daughter, wants me to give her mother another chance. While Betsy and I have started to reconnect intimately, I yearn for passion. She insists she needs me and loves me, but only time will tell. I'm starting to feel more confident as some women I've met at the gym have shown interest in me after hearing my story. We'll have to wait and see how things unfold.